We're looking at the Mishnah on the top of Daf Yud Gimel.
Oh, okay.
And we're dealing with issues of the ksuba. He has one taina, she has a counter argument. So he marries her and he doesn't find besulin. He claims Pesach Pasua. There was no dam besulin. He omeres, she claims no. I didn't have a be'ilah, but rather mukas eitzani. I had some sort of an accident. She had a bang on the floor, and as a result, it broke the besulin. Hu omer loki ella drusas isha. He's claiming no, you had a beer, and if you had a beer, then my whole deal here is a mekach tos. I didn't want to marry a ba'ula, I wanted to marry a besula. So now the question is, who's trusted? To who do we believe? From Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, Omer Nemenes, she's believed to say that she's a mukaseitz, and he can't be mafsid hada ksuba. And Rabbi Yeshua Omer, lo mipia anuchayim. We're not going to rely on what she claims. Now the Gemara is going to go through a very tedious machlokes, whether or not her claim is that she should get a full masayim zuz, or she's only claiming a mana. He's claiming that he doesn't want to pay her a penny. The whole deal is off. So Rabbi Yeshua says we can't rely on her. After all, she wants to prove that he owes her money. Is hamotzi michal ve'ol of haraya. And even though her taina is a tainus bari, his is only a tainus shema, but nevertheless bari v'shema la bari adif. Ella therefore, says Rabbi Yeshua, harei zu b'chezkas trutas ish. Unless she can prove otherwise, we assume he doesn't have an obligation to pay for the ksuba. And his claim of mekatos is a valid claim. So Rabbi Yeshua is just simply applying the universal rule of hamotzi mechavel raya to this case. So now the Gemara analyzes this Mishnah, and the machlokas between Rabbi Gamliel, who says she's believed, and Rabbi Yeshua says no, she's not believed. Tanatayu b'mai. What is his taina and what is her taina? Rabbi Yochanan omer masayim umana. She's demanding a full 200 zuz, and his claim is that she owes him, he owes her a mana, only half that amount. And this would be l'chora case of moda v'viktas, and he should be taking a shvur. But we're a little bit more at home with Rabbi Elazar. His approach is more intuitive when we learn the Mishnah. But mana v'lo klum, she's demanding a mana because she's not a besula, she's a mukas eitz, but she still gets a ksuba, and he's claiming, I don't want to pay you a dime. So the Gemara now analyzes the machlokas here between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar about how to interpret the machlokas between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yochanan, Masayim b'mana, according to Rabbi Yochanan, we hold like Rabbi Antiomar, Bain Hikirba, Bain Lo Hikirba, Masayim. And this is a machlokes a few blot earlier on Daf Yud Aleph with regard to Mukas Eitz. Rabbi Meir holds that Mukas Eitz has the status of a Besula, as opposed to Drusas Ish. There was no Drisa of an Ish, and therefore she's still a Besula. So whether the Baal knew about the fact that she was a Mukas Eitz, but did not know about it, is totally irrelevant. She nevertheless would receive Masayim Zuz, and that's what she's claiming, even though he didn't know that she was a Mukas Eitz. Oh, so what's the Baal claiming? Right, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that the gap between her claim and his claim is a gap between Masayim and Mana. And the answer is that the Baal is claiming that she might be of Drusas each, and therefore she only gets a mana. Now, this is a little bit strange. If the Baal's claim is correct, L'shitaso, right, that she's a Drusas ish, then why does Rabbi Yochanan insist that she gets a mana? L'chora, he's claiming I'm out of this deal. So here we have to introduce another principle, which apparently Rabbi Yochanan accepted, and this is going to be a Gemara later on, and that's called Kansa Becheskes Besula, V'nimtzeis Be'ula, Yesh La Ksubas Mana. That the fact that to his surprise she's a Be'ula doesn't mean that the whole deal is off. It just means that her Ksuba is a Ksuba of a Be'ula, of a woman who's been married before, which means that she gets a Mana. So again, her claim is she gets a full Messiah based on Rabbi Meir's principle, Bein Hikirba, Bein Lo Hikirba. In the case of Mukas Eitz, she gets a full Ksuba Messiah. She's considered for Ksuba laws as a Basula. And that's the Shita of the Isha. What's the Shita of the Ish? He's holding that I thought you were a Basula. You turn out to be a Ba'ula Jusas Ish. I'm only going to pay you one mana. So her claim is for Masayim, his claim is for a mana. That's the Shita of Yochanan. Now we get to the second approach. That's the Shita of Rabbi Elazar, not to be confused with Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah Tana. Rabbi Elazar the Amora says, "V'mana v'lo klum." Savarla, he holds that the Tana of our Mishnah is not Rabbi Meir, but rather Rabbanan who reject Rabbi Meir, the Amri, and they were the ones who hold that Mukas Eitz, Bein Hikirba, Bein Lo Hikirba, B'mana. She is like a Ba'ula as far as Ksuba is concerned, but he cannot claim Mekach Tos. And I don't want to pay you a dime because she's not a full-fledged Ba'ula. She's kind of in that quasi state. She's a Ba'ula and she only gets a mana, but there's no Mekach Tos. She gets a mana, even though he didn't know that she was a Mukas Eitz. The Baal is claiming that she's a Drusas Ish. He doesn't know for sure, but maybe she's a Drusas Ish. And now we're holding against Rabbi Yochanan that Konsubecheskes Besul and Intzeis Beula Ein Lo Klum. The Gemara says, Bishleim Rabbi Elazar Lo Kamer to Rabbi Yochanan. I understand very well why Rabbi Elazar rejected Rabbi Yochanan. The latter. Rabbi Yochanan had said that the Tainis were Masayim and Mana. Why? Because the Kamuki Le Rabbanan, he wants the extra advantage of assuming the Mishnah reflects the Rabbanan Chita that Mukas Eitz gets only a mana. He feels it's dochak to interpret the Mishnah dafka according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is a das yachid. El Rabbi Yochanan, my time below Rabbi Elazar. Why doesn't he explain the Mishnah the way Rabbi Elazar does? And the machlokas between he and she is whether mana or zero. And then we can reflect the Shita of the Rabbanan. Why push yourself into the Shita of Rabbi Meir? So the Gemara now is going to give us the secret to unlock the mystery of Rabbi Yochanan and why Rabbi Yochanan refuses to interpret this Mishnah in the light of the Chachamim. Because Kasava, Rabbi Yochanan's Shita is Kansa B'cheskes P'sula V'nimteis Be'ula Yesh La Ksubas Mana. He never accepted the concept of Mekach Tos when a man, to his surprise, finds that the woman he thought was a P'sula is a Be'ula. No. She gets the Ksuba of a Be'ula, which is a Ksubas Mana. So therefore, it's not possible to say in our Mishnah and interpret our Mishnah that she's claiming that she gets the Ksubas Mana the way Rabbi Elazar had explained, because what do you mean she gets a Ksubas Mana? For sure she gets a Ksubas Mana. That wasn't even an issue. Even if he found her to be a Ba'ula and we'd accept his claim that she was a Ba'ula to his surprise, she would still get a Mana. Because Hacharei Hu Ka'amar Mana, he's claiming a Mana. And what, Shvehi Ka'amar Mana? So again, according to Rabbi Yochanan, since he's committed to the opinion of Nimteis Bula Yesh La Ksubas Mana, the Baal's claim is Mana. So what are you going to tell me, that she's claiming a mana and he's claiming a mana? So where's the gap between the two claims? That's why Rabbi Yochanan could not possibly accept Rabbi Elazar. So therefore, we must assume that according to Rabbi Yochanan, there's no other choice, there's no other possibility other than that her claim is for Masayim, because he's certainly claiming a mana. He admits that he has to pay a mana. She must be claiming Masayim, and that can only be if we stand on the shoulders of Rabbi Meir, who holds that Mukas Eitz always gets Masayim. So Gemara asks the following question: Bishlei Rabbi Elazar. I understand Rabbi Elazar, who interprets our Mishnah in light of the Shita, that a Drusus each gets nothing, and that justifies why we need both Mishnahs. The Mishnah on Daf Yud Beis, and that was the case where she claims Misharastani Nenasti, that after Eretz and I was raped. And now we need this Mishnah where she claims that she's a Mukas Eitz. And why do we need both Mishnahs? The Gemara now analyzes it. Chada. We need one Mishnah. That's the Mishnah above, the first Mishnah of Yud Aleph of this set of two Mishnahs. Lafuki mit Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama was of the opinion that everybody agrees, whether it's Reb Meir or the Rabbana, that if she fooled him, so to speak, she surprised him, and turned out to be a Mukas Eitz, he didn't realize that, she doesn't get a ksuba at all. That's the sheet of Rami Bar Chama. And the previous Mishnah Daf Yud Aleph is coming Lafuki Rami Bar Chama, and to tell us that in a case where she admits that she's a Mukas Eitz, then she gets a ksuba. So that's what the Mishnah tells us here, that if she claims Mukas Eitz, and you didn't know I was a Mukas Eitz, she's still claiming a ksuba. Whether it's a Mono or Masayim, we don't know yet. That we'll find out from our Mishnah, but she's certainly claiming a ksuba against Rabbi Bar Chama, who says that everybody agrees that Lo Hikir Ba and Nimtzeis Mukas Eitz ain't Lo ksuba klal. Bechada, now we need another Mishnah. Let's go over it. Let's just backtrack for a second. We have Chada and Chada. So it's interesting. The Chada here is not the sequence of our Mishnah. It's actually the opposite sequence. That's where we got thrown off a little bit. Chada Lafukim and Rami Bar Chama means our Mishnah is coming to exclude Rami Bar Chama, because in our Mishnah, her claim is for ksuba against Rami Bar Chama, who says that if she admits that she's a Mukas Eitz, she gets nothing. And Chada, now we go back to the earlier Mishnah of Mishrastani Nenasti, that's Lafuki mit Reb Chia bar Ovin Rav Sheshes, who holds concept of Psul Nimtzis Pula Yesh La Mona. And our Mishnah says, when I say our Mishnah, I mean the earlier Mishnah, the two Mishnahs in Daf Yud Aleph, says, Lo kiela ad shelo rastich, v'hoya mekri mekach tos. Notice he's claiming, the Baal is claiming, mekach tos, l'gamri. I don't want to pay you anything. Because konsa b'cheskas psula v'nitzes ba'ula ein lo klum. So we can justify the two Mishnayos. Each one is coming lafuki, a different shita. El Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that she gets a mana. So in other words, the earlier Mishnah means that he's tiny mekach tos in the sense of, I don't want to pay you Masayim, I want to pay you a mana. Because Rabbi Yochanan holds mana. Is tarti lamali. We already have the Kiddush in the previous Mishnah that his claim is for a mana, because Nimseis Ba'ula gets a mana according to Rabbi Yochanan. So what is our Mishnah adding to the earlier Mishnah? This machlokas in our Mishnah, Rav Gamliel, Rav Yeshua, which is machlokas Abari V'Shema, we could have derived from the previous Mishnah in regard to Mukas 8. So what's the need for this Mishnah? Now the Gemara is going to try to explain according to Rabbi Yochanan why we need our Mishnah. Ada, we need one Mishnah, Lodiacha Kocho de Rabbi Gamliel, namely that we believe her. V'chada, and we need another Mishnah, Lodiacha Kocho de Rabbi Yochanan, that she's not believed. The Gemara explains. Kamaisa, the earlier Mishnah, where she says, Mirshas Tani Nasti, that's coming Lafuke, Lo Diacha, to teach us Kocho de Rabbi Yochanan. Yafagav Dikal Meimer Migu, Lo Maham. Right? She has a Migu. She could have claimed Mukas 8, and she would not be Psula L'Kuhuna. And instead, she says, Mirshas Tani Nasti, and I can no longer marry a Kohen. And the chiddush of Yeshua is to negate this, undermine this migu, and lo mehemna, we're not going to rely on this migu. Now, why isn't this migu reliable? Tosfos explains, because even if she were to put forth the taina of Mukas Eitzani, she wouldn't be believed according to Rabbi Yeshua. So a migu has to be based on another taina that you could have put forward that you would have been believed on. That's right. So now we need the second Mishnah, which he claims Mukas Eitzani. Lo diacha kocha de Rabbi Gamliel. The afagav the lekel meimar migu mehem. Now, what does that mean? We're going, let's say, according to Rabbi Yochanan, correct? Work out Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says that this Mishnah, the second Mishnah, our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Meir, Mukas Eitz gets Messiah. So whether or not she taina is Mukas 8, meaning before the Erison I was a Mukas 8, or she would taina Mukas 8 ani tachtecha, during the Erison period I became a Mukas 8. In Monavshach, there's no migu over here. She always gets Messiah because Rabbi Yochanan is standing on the shoulders of Rabbi Meir, and no matter whether or not he knew she was a Mukas 8, he didn't know, she always gets Messiah. So she doesn't have a migu that she could have claimed a better claim, because her claim gives her the full Messiah. And Rabbi Gamliel holds she's believed because she has a cheskes kasher shelo zinsa, and she's a Mukas 8, not because of migu. And this leads us to the second Mishnah on Daf Yud Gimel. And once again, we have Machlok Shrim of Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua as to whether or not she's believed with her time. But this Mishnah is not talking about Dini Mominus, about the Chi of Ksuva. This Mishnah is talking about Isa Veheta. Okay, we have a pasuk in Parshas Emor by way of introduction. Isha zona v'chalolo yikach ki kadoshu le'elokach. A woman is called a zona. She's not allowed to marry a Kohen. But she's a woman who had his nus with a guy, with an Eved, or one of the Chayvei Krisus. According to one opinion, she had nus with an Isalav. So the Mishnah says the following. Ra'ua, the word Ra'ua means that witnesses saw her. Midaberes, we'll see in the Gemara different possibilities. We're going to assume Midaberes means she was alone with a man. That's called Yichud. Im Echad. And he's a faceless, anonymous person. We don't know whether he's Kosher Lakuna, whether he's Posel Lakuna. So she's a Pnuya. She's not married. Now, if he's a guy, then he passes Hola Kuhuna. The Amrule, the Edim asked her, Ma tivo shel ish zeh. What category would you put this person at Yad Yichu with into? Is he a kosher? Is he a posel? The onsa, and she responds. The omra, and she says, "Ish ploni v'kohenu." Again, the word Kohen is a little tricky here. It doesn't mean that he's a Kohen. He might be, but what it means is that he's a miyuchas. He's kosher lakun. And once again, we have machlokas from Rabbi Lezer against Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, over in their she's believed. She's ksher lakuna. She has a cheskes kashrus lakuna, and we're not going to pass a midin suffix. Rabbi Yeshua disagrees, and he holds me below me piano chayim. We're not going to rely on her claim, Ella, but rather, if she can't bring a proof that she was nivel aladam kosher, is hareizu b'cheskes bul nasin ula mamzer ad shetavi raya lidvarim. We're going to pass her mitzad suffix. We're not going to say, well, she has a cheskes kashrus. She's not such a kashrus person. I mean, because after all, she was niveles as a pnuya. So we're going to assume that she had beer with a nasin and a mams. Not sure where it doesn't mention a guy here. Just 1 second. Okay, so I don't know. If you have a note on that, I'm just curious why it doesn't mention guy here in the mission.
No, it doesn't say anything about that. It just explains Nasan and
right. The whole background of what the Nesidim are. They're they're descendants of the Givonim, and during Yoshua's time, he put them as Chot Be'etzim, Chot Mayim, and not allowed to marry Jewish girls. And Mamzer is not allowed to be of Taivim Risus. Okay, fine. Next case. This is the safe. We're gonna have a lot of discussion about the relation of the safe. Chaysim Uberes. We have an unwed woman who's pregnant. Right? In America, we used to say, but this probably won't mean much to you as a Canadian, Nixon's the one. Does that ring any bell?
No.
Okay, that's a real American culture. Anyway, the Amrullah, Mativa Shalubrazeh, who was the father of this, future child. So she says, Mish Ploni, the Kohen who. Again, once again, the word Kohen doesn't mean a Kohen, literally it means he's miyuchas l'kuhun, he's kosher l'kuhun. Of Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, Omrim Nemenes. She has a cheskes kashrus. We have a suffix, but she's believed. I mean, she has a titus bari and a cheskes kashrus. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Lomi Piado Chayim. I mean, a pregnant woman, not married. We're not going to rely on her claim. Ella hareizu b'cheskes muberes lenasin ulamamza ad shetavi raya lidvareh. So let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. The Reisha says, Ra'ua midaberes. My midaberes, the Gemara asks. And the Gemara quotes the following machlokes amoraim. Zeiri Omar Nistera. That means we don't even know that she had bia. We have here, according to Zeiri, a sfek. We have one suffix if she had bia, another suffix if she had bia with a pos. Rav Asi Omar. No. There's only one suffix here. What's midaberes? Nivala. So they can testify about the be'ila, which means that they saw a be'ila, but they can't identify the bo'el. According to Rav Asi, if it would have only have been yichud that the Edom saw, you'd have a sveka. Number one, did you have be'ila? Number two, did you have a be'ila to a apostle? And that would be machshir. The Gemara says, Hainu dekov midaberet. She was talking to someone, a man, probably in a private place. El Rav Asi mai midaberes. What is the Mishnah using the word midaberes? And it's referring to a be'ila. They saw an actual be'ila. And the Gemara answers, Lishna ma'alya. The Mishnah wants to use a more edel lashon. Kirichsiv, like we see in the pasuk, achla. Just 1 second, I think it's Mishlei. Let me just double check this. Yeah, how do you like that? I got it right. Mishlei. Achla umachasapia. She ate something and then she wipes her mouth out so you can't see that she ate anything. The Amra lo palti of it. And she claims, I didn't do anything wrong. What that means is she had a relationship with another man, and then she wiped her place down there, and she said, no, I didn't have any beer. Ishlema l'zeiri, hainu diktoni tarte, we can justify the Reisha and the Sefer. Why is that? In the Reisha Medaberes, which according to Zeiri means Yichud, or Nistera. And the Sefer is Meuberes, that's explicit in the Mishnah. The Reisha wants to tell us how far Rabbi Yeshua went, that even though there's a Sfek, we don't even know if she had a Be'ila, nevertheless she's Asura. The Sefer is coming to teach me the Koach of Rabbi Gamliel. How far is Rabbi Gamliel going to go to believe her? Even though the Edom saw, I mean, we don't need the Edom for that because she's pregnant, but we know that she had a Be'ila. And nevertheless, according to Rabbi Gamliel, she's Muteris L'Kohen. And you only have one suffix, that maybe the Boel was a kosher, maybe he was a Nasid or a Mamzer. El Rav Asi, who says Medaberes is Nivala, so my Tarti Lamali, the Mishnah is just repeating itself. In both cases, we know that she had Be'ila, so there's only one suffix. So the Gemara answers, Chado l'hachshir ba, v'chado l'hachshir bita. We need the Reisha to teach me that Ram Gamliel is matir this woman to kahuna. She can marry Kohen. And we're going according to Zeiri that she's out of wedlock, she's pregnant. She can marry a Kohen. So that's the big chiddush of the Reisha. Why do we need the Sefer? Lahachsher bebita. No, not only is she allowed to marry a Kohen, she had a cheskes kashrus from birth, but even the bas has already a suffix from her very emergence. When she emerges, she has no cheskes kashrus. She's already in a suffix. She was nolda b'suffix. Or it says, "Ha nicha lemanti amar l'derei machshir ba machshir bebita." So again, right now we don't know who holds this, but maybe in Yud Gimel and Beis we'll find out. But a machshir ba machshir bebita. So now the Sefer is coming to teach you that even the bas is kshera. El, according to Rabbi Gamliel, El lemanti amar l'derei machshir ba hosel bebita. Even Rabbi Gamliel, who's machshir her, that's good, she has a cheskes kashrus. But as far as the bas, she never had a cheskes kashrus, is therefore she's psula. Is Michael and Maimer, then you're back to square one. Why did the Mishnah have two different scenarios of Midaberes and Muberes, when in both cases we know that she was Nivala? Again, we're going to Ravas. So more enters. Mavasi Savala Command Yomar Lidura Machshir Bebita. So you're right. You've this is what you call checkmate, right? You've boxed me into a corner. I don't have any other option. I have to assume that Ravasi accepts the opinion, which we'll learn later on, that Machshir Bebita. That according to Rabbi Gamliel, he's Machshir her, the Kuhuna, and he's Machshir the Bas, the Kuhuna. And I need the Mishnah to Mechadesh that not only is she Ksheira Lakuna, but even the Bas who doesn't have a Cheskes Kashrus, she's also Ksheira Lakuna. Amalei Rav Papa Abaye L'Zeiri Damamai Medaberes Nistera. So it means that the two Sveikas here, and yet Rabbi Yeshua Lo Mehemna, we don't believe her to say L'Kosher Nivalti. Even though we only saw Stira, we didn't see Be'ila. Once we see Stira, we assume she had Be'ila. She's Bechezke Shenivala. Affecting Gemara, Ha'amar Rav, Malkin al Yichud, V'yein Osrin al Yichud. we give a person makas maradus for violating yichud. Now, my commentary says, I don't know if you have the same, that we're talking about an Ashes Ish, Malkin al Yichud. I wasn't sure that we're referring to an Ashes Ish. In an Ashes Ish case, you're going to be motzi laws on the children that they're mamzerim. I don't know. But this hopefully will be clarified as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
But the Ein Osun al Yichud. So again, when Ein Osun al Yichud, if we're assuming that we're talking about an Ashes Ish, it means she's not a Surah Baila, even though she had Yichud, because we need Kini and Stira to answer a woman on her husband. So the Gemara asks, Lema de lo Rabbi Yeshua, are you telling me that Rav cannot be reconciled with Rabbi Yeshua? Rabbi Yeshua holds that she's psula kuna, even though there was only yichud. And here Rav is being quoted saying, Ein otzen ala yichud. And where it says, Aftilu teim Rabbi Yeshua, I can reconcile Rav with Rabbi Yeshua, and she's asur l'kahuna. That has nothing to do with what Rav said, Ein otzen ala yichud. But rather, Maila asu b'yuchsin. Yuchsin here means kahuna. The Rabbanu were machmer to generate an Isser of this woman on Kohen, and because she had yichud, just because she had yichud. And that is in no way a contradiction to the issue of Isha Labaila. And maybe this is how we know that the discussion here was about an Ashes Ish and whether she's Asur Labaila when she had yichud with another man. And the Chiddush here is that no, she's not Asur al Baila. And even though going according to Rabbi Yeshua says she's Asur la Kahuna, and that's Rabbi Yeshua's Shita, we can still reconcile that with the statement of Rav of Ein Otzen al Yichud, because he's not talking Rav about my loss of the Yufsin for Kahuna, he's talking about HSE. So we're not going to, although there's a Maila and a Chumrah, we're not going to be machmir to break up a marriage. We'll be machmir to tell her you can't marry a Kohen. So again, as we move on, we're talking about Rav Asi, who interpreted our Mishnah that Rabbi Yeshua is discussing a case, according to Rav Asi, of Nivala, my Midaberes Nivala. And on that, the Gemara is going to find a stira from a Bryce. Masechet. Ra'ua shenichnesa im echad l'seisa. She went into a private place, Adam testified,